Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The November 13th Palm Springs Planning Commission is now in session. Report of posting of agenda, please, Alex.
Thank you, Chairman. The agenda was posted by the Planning Division at 5 p.m. Friday, November 8th, in accordance with state and local procedures.
One of the first things we have on our agenda is the approval of the October 8th minutes, and I don't believe our packets contain those minutes, so
That's correct.
we'll dispense with that and pick it up next time. First item then is public comments. Anybody wishing to address the commission on planning issues in the city of Palm Springs may come forward and do so at this time. If you are here on an agended item, whether it's a public hearing or not, we would prefer that you hold your comments until the item is called. If you prefer, however, you may come forward and speak at this time. Seeing none, we'll close public comments. I want to remind the commission that we have a very heavy agenda today and that we have a joint study session with City Council tonight at 7 o'clock. So let's try to be brief and to the point today so we can get out a reasonable time because we've got a long day ahead of us. Our public hearing items are noticed for 2 o'clock, so until then, we'll jump down on the calendar and move to architectural approval matters. Number 7, case number 5.0911, application by the City of Palm Springs for a skate park located at Sunrise Park on Pavilion Way. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This item was reviewed by the Design Review Committee yesterday afternoon, and a number of items were discussed. We're recommending that a number of the items be approved as submitted and that 2 items be approved subject to revised designs. The items that we'd recommend be approved as submitted include the steel columns, metal seam roof in a clarion yellow color, dark blue stucco office, the shade canopies in a desert tan color, the wave bench, dark gray louvers, flat work of a natural concrete color with exposed aggregate in 2 patterns, and the 2 revisions would be rotating the light poles 90 degrees, and this would essentially allow for a different appearance of the light poles, as well as an iron fence that would match the existing fence. If it pleases the commission, I'll approach the board to kind of walk you through.
Please.
At the Design Review Committee meeting yesterday afternoon, the committee looked at the earlier approvals and some updated information that was to be provided at the time, kind of settling in on the final details. As you may remember, there are different colors and materials proposed in this area and this area. The Design Review Committee recommended that the roof be provided in a tone called the Abigail, which is the yellow. So it's a little darker, a little richer than appears here. And they've also recommended a dark blue stucco for the tower and office. In terms of the poles and the location of the poles, these poles are designed to be 10-inch iron painted black. The light fixtures would match in a similar fashion and similar volume of a pole, not the same width, but it would recall the poles of the main building. Lastly, the canopies over the shade structure of the bowls and pool area would be a desert tan. It's essentially this color here. Design Review Committee looked at this project for a while, and they seem to be pretty pleased in terms of how it's evolved and where it is at this point. With that stated, we'll recommend that you adopt the the motion of approval in your motions agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any members of the audience that would like to address the commission on this matter? If you care to do so, this would be an appropriate time. Seeing none, back to the commission for comments.
Alex, a question. When I sat, it was the prior design review discussion where there was that in-depth discussion about the double tubular supports for the shade structures. Did they ever, Ralph had a good argument, Ralph Rea was that settled finally? Because it seemed like they were nitpicking quite a bit on
Yes,
that
that
design.
issue was addressed yesterday, and there was some discussion whether the light poles should match the size and strength of the poles that uphold the roof, which are the 10-inch diameter. And it was agreed upon that they should be the dual poles, but rotated 90 degrees so that they would line up with the bowls.
Okay, thank you.
Any further inquiry? And Alex, just to clarify, the design review was unanimous in their support of the proposals that are before us today?
That's correct.
Mr. Matthews?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval of case 5.0911 as submitted with the changes as outlined in our motion agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Caffrey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Good luck. Thanks for your presentation yesterday. Next item, number 8, case 5.0905. Application by Creative Communities LLC for a final plan development district located at the southwest corner of East Palm Canyon Drive and Araby Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This item was also addressed by the Design Review Committee yesterday afternoon. And the Design Review Committee's recommendation was approve the final plan development district subject to the restudy of the rear elevations of plans 1A, 1B, and 1C, with the final review and approval of those elevations being provided by the Design Review Committee. If it pleases the commission, I will approach the board and kind of walk you through the project.
Thank you.
As you may recall, this project is located on the southwest corner of East Palm Canyon and Araby. The final plan development district includes grading plans, landscape plans, wall plans, and then architectural elevations. So I'll kind of walk you through some of the base assumptions. There was concern on the part of staff in terms of the pad elevations of the proposed development in relationship to the existing development to the south. We have pad heights directly to the west at 410, to the southwest at 410 and 409. So we wanted to make sure that all of these proposed residential units would be complementary and not overwhelm or provide too much mass adjacent to the existing residences. In this area, we've got pad heights at 406, 407, 407, and 408, clearly below the development to the west. The finished floor here is 409 in the existing development. Proposed ranges from 408 to 405. In this area, the existing building is a finished floor elevation of 407 feet with pads proposed at 405 to 404. So, thank you. So clearly, all of the proposed pad elevations, finished floor elevations, are below that proposed or that existing in the adjacent vicinity. In terms of the landscape plan that's proposed at this time is consistent with the earlier approval, and condition 28 of the original approval said that the intersection area should be beefed up in terms of the planting, which was originally proposed in this fashion, in order to provide shielding and cutting the glare of headlights from vehicles turning from Palm Canyon Drive onto Araby. The applicant's design and the design team added the additional Thavicha, which is a yellow oleander, in a 24-inch box size. Essentially, that's a tree size, not a shrub size. So we're pretty comfortable that they have done what it's going to take, what it's going to need to take to improve that area and provide a little more shielding to reduce the glare of the headlights. In terms of the wall, the proposed wall and fences, The wall runs essentially like this along East Palm Canyon Drive, ranging from 6 to 7 feet in height, which we think is appropriate due to the volume of vehicles and noise generated on that corridor. Continues here, and then as originally proposed, the wall kind of tucked into this house. There was kind of an open area here, and then the wall came out. We worked with the design team to redesign that wall so that it really wraps around the entire area and doesn't create kind of a dead space or a hiding space in this area. We didn't think that was useful. So with the engineering firm and the design team, they relocated the wall to wrap it around here. We think that's a better solution in terms of the design. If you recall the wall along Araby, it's kind of a narrower planting area than we have on East Palm Canyon Drive. So the design team came up with the solution of mini planters in a pattern that replicates itself in this area, and it provides for a sense of rhythm. So the wall section is here in terms of the 6-foot perimeter wall, but a little planter area right here, about 2 feet high. And what that does is it allows you to have little trees planted in there for kind of break up the rhythm, and it's expressed right in this area, breaking up that rhythm. We think that's a nice design touch. It softens the wall, this long, expansive wall. Any questions on the landscape or grading plans before I move on to the architectural elevations?
Any questions of staff? Please proceed, Alex.
Okay, thank you. As you'll recall, the design team provided some pretty colorful elevations of East Palm Canyon Drive, the Araby Drive elevations, and then the interior street elevations. There was concern at the time that this application came forward that the architecture may have been essentially one-sided architecture rather than architecture wrapping around all 4 sides of the building. In reviewing this, we shared that concern. The applicant was able to redesign the elevations, but we're still at the point where we thought Plan 1 was kind of weak. Design review worked with us and agreed to that. So we have a condition or a recommendation in your motion that we approve the final plan development district with design review restudying Plan 1. Essentially, each of the 3 models has 3 sets of elevations, and the design review committee thought that because of the large mass of this building, it's essentially 2 units put together, this is what you'd see above the fence. And there was some concern that this elevation might not have enough architectural detail or might not be rich enough to really place on our major corridor. So the applicant was comfortable with that. We're recommending approval of the final plan development district with Plan 1 being restudied by the design review committee and their recommendation being final. So with the recommendation we have, you would not see the revisions to this design. The applicant was comfortable with that, and design review was also comfortable with that. That concludes staff's presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mr. Caffrey, comment?
And that's okay with the way our design review is structured to be final with them?
It certainly is, yes.
Thank you.
I can just report back that I represented the commission at the design review meeting yesterday, and we had extensive discussions on this issue, and it wasn't just the exposure of the rear of the number 1 models on the Palm Canyon corridor, but it's at other stages in the development as well, facing the neighboring property owner and even interior. So it's
That's correct.
wherever it occurs during the structure. Design review felt pretty comfortable that the other models had been modified in a satisfactory manner. So anybody here representing, or is there anybody here in the audience who would like to address the commission on this issue? If you would like to, this would be an appropriate time, and please come forward. Okay, back to the commission for further questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Are we ready
Mr.
for a
Caffrey?
motion?
Go ahead.
I had one quick question. Alex, there was some discussion previous on the street widths and parking. Was that resolved?
My understanding is that those issues have been resolved, yes.
Right. Thank you. With that, if no one else has any questions, I'll make a motion. Okay, I'd move that we approve, subject to the restudy of the rear elevation of Plan 1.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Second by Mr. Grinch. Ms. Morantz, did you have a question before?
No, I probably answered my own question. I
All
was
right.
just saying,
Motion by Mr. Caffrey, second by Mr. Grinch. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Good luck. Look forward to seeing the final product. Next item is number 9, case 3.2215, application by Desert Academy of the Arts for Palm Springs Street Sculpture Program for art benches citywide. Have the staff report on this, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, this is an item that you looked at in your study session a while back. It's a proposal by the Desert Academy of the Arts for the Palm Springs Street Sculpture Program art benches. It's a program that, as you recall, you saw a large display board that Mr. Chiaffi described to you as a big color exhibit. It showed you basically the types of benches and the examples of some of the art that would be done. Back then, it was just sketches. Subsequent to your study session, this proposal has been through the Arts Commission multiple times. The Arts Commission has added their input into the program. They've actually asked for 2 examples of benches to be painted and placed in the downtown to see how they would fit and look. You have photographs of those examples in your packet. At that study session, the Planning Commission was supportive of the program. However, it was staff's recollection, and our notes indicated the commission wanted to see and approve the program with actually acknowledgement and knowledge of a actual agreement to operate the program to make sure that all the issues have been worked out. This is a project that I'm sure the Desert Academy of the Arts will tell you has been through pretty extensive review process. They've been to the Parks and Rec Commission, they've been to the Planning Commission, they've been to the Arts Commission, they've been before the City Council, and what we're bringing back now is what we think is a program that would put forth 30 plus or minus benches to be primarily painted by the students. At the end of the program, the benches will either be replaced or restored at the expense of the program. The agreement has to be approved by the City Council. They share the same concerns the Commission had. The agreement I gave you is still a working draft agreement, but I think it gives you an idea. We're going down the right direction. Staff recommends approval of the architectural approval case. We don't believe you need to actually review and approve the agreement. That's something that the Assistant City Manager, City Attorney, and various staff are working on, and the final agreement will go up to Council for its approval to get the project underway. I've got to tell you that the group has been very patient. And I think at times when they could have easily said it's not worth the effort, they came back and did what it really took to give people the comfort level that, 1, the art quality would be good, 2, there'd be reasonable durability of the benches, and 3, at the end of the program, the benches will either be new benches or refurbished to look like our downtown benches. Mr. Chairman, that completes the report, and I'm not sure if the Academy is here. They've probably been exhausted by all the meetings they've had to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. What you're looking for from the commission is approval of the project conceptually as presented to us?
It'd be their narrative description and the photograph examples. You don't need to take action on the agreement.
To commission then for comments, questions, motions. Mr. Matthews.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval of case 3.2215, the application by Desert Academy of Arts.
second,
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Ms. Morantz. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. You can let the Arts Commission know that we appreciate their efforts. Next item is miscellaneous item number 10, case 5.0845, application by John Sanborn for Akanto Partners for one-year time extension from October 4th, 2002 to October 4th, 2003 for an approved preliminary plan development district and tentative track map for 48 single-family residential lots on 25.01 acres, 1,320 feet east of South Palm Canyon Drive at Akanto Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We told you that this would be a shorter staff report and time duration than our last meeting. We recommend, at the applicant's request, and staff concurs, a continuance of this item to your next meeting.
Very good. Do we need to make a motion on that, or is just,
Yeah, you read the item in. Why don't you just have a quick motion, sir?
Chair will entertain a motion to continue this matter to the next meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Schoenberger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Next item, number 11, case 5.0666, application by The Classic for time extension for tentative track map 28033 and preliminary plan development district located at the southwest corner of Vistachino and Gene Autry Trail. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from that item.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberger.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is an item that we've provided a written staff report. The commission has granted a series of time extensions, so has the council. This is a time extension that we believe is needed and timely. Staff is currently working with a new property ownership group and a new development team. Since the last time you had an update on this project, it's a team that we are really pleased to be working with. They've got a good track record in large projects. It's a development team that's going to propose a revised classic project. It's going to be the real new classic. And we feel very strongly that anytime we have an entitlement that's existing with a certified EIR, we try to keep time extensions in place until a revised project can replace it. We think there's lots of good track record issues that support that. And, the city council has already approved an environmental assessment contract to prepare new environmental documents for the project. We've entered into a permit processing agreement with the developer that outlines the roles for both the city and the developer. And we think that the time extension, even though in the past we've questioned it, and certainly the city council has and the commission has, that we've got a good development team in place. They're making significant progress, and we'd like to keep this existing entitlement in place until the new project is ready for commission consideration. If everything goes well, we hope to have the entitlement process on the new project completely finished by March of next year. Their goal is, if everything goes well, they'd like to break ground on the golf course in November of next year and be open the following November. And that is a perfect schedule to get a new golf course resort project built in Palm Springs as far as entitlement schedule, time to do your construction plans, bid it, build it, and let the grass grow in for a November opening, which is absolutely the perfect sequencing. So we're quite pleased with where we are today. We've got a lot of work to do between now and March, and we're going to be workshopping this with the Planning Commission probably throughout the time frame up until you see it in a public hearing. So, Chairman, that completes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any questions of staff? Mr. Caffrey?
I'd move approval as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Caffrey, second by Ms. Morantz. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
One abstention.
And one abstention from Mr. Schoenberger. Thank you. All right, we've gone past 2 p.m. Time for public hearings. Our first public hearing item is agenda item number 2, case 6.465, application by Thomas Flanagan for variance to allow existing 7.5-foot rear yard to permit an enclosed patio, the elimination of garage, and waive code requirements for covered parking, and the reduction of a portion of the east side yard setback to permit an existing covered tandem parking garage. Property is located at 3863 East Calle, San Antonio. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I also have to abstain from that item.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberger.
I'm in a good mood.
The item before you has some interesting characteristics, so I'm going to discuss the characteristics and background prior to going into our recommendation. The lot area is substandard, 6,375 square feet, a width of 75 feet, and a depth of 85 feet. The R1D standards for which the lot is located requires a minimum lot size of 7,500 feet with a minimum lot depth of 100 feet. The applicant is requesting that the commission approve the variance to legalize existing structures which were constructed without benefit of permit, and this application was filed in response to a notice of code violation. When originally constructed, the residence was constructed with a 10-foot rear yard, as was the standard for the R1 zone at that time. The former property owner at some time in the past initiated conversion of a garage into additional living area. At some point, also a tandem garage was then constructed between the house and the east property line. And then lastly, an enclosed patio was also constructed, 2.5 feet of which projected into the rear yard setback. Yeah, a number of variances have been granted in reduction to rear and side yards in R1C zone properties. However, this property is an R1D zone parcel. There are precedents for 3-foot side yards that are listed in your report, but we were unable to find a precedent for zero lot line configuration, which is what the applicant is requesting in terms of their side yard where the covered workshop area is. During our investigation and analysis, we surveyed the surrounding residential neighborhood, and we found a number of instances of enclosed garages, property line carports or garages that also exist within the vicinity. For obvious reasons, we're unable to identify whether there are similar projections into the rear yard setbacks. We just weren't able to get into the yards. However, from our experience, from looking at the aerial photos and from what we're able to see from the streets, we do understand that there are similar structures that do encroach into the rear yards. Much of the subdivision was built with the 10-foot rear yard setback, as this residence was in 1946. So we've prepared a number of findings in accordance with state variance criteria, and our recommendation is for a rear yard setback of 7.5 feet for use as a covered and screened patio, the elimination of the garage and waiver of requirements for covered parking, and a side yard setback of 3 feet for use as a covered workshop. This will provide some hardship for the applicant because the existing garage is a tandem garage to the property line. If I may approach the boards, I'll kind of go over the site design with you.
Please do.
For orientation purposes, this house is located in the Demuth Park vicinity. Calle San Antonio is right here. The house is one residence from the end of the block. There's an additional residence here. There's 3 areas of concern or requests that are being made to you today. First, to allow the conversion of the garage and elimination of the covered parking requirement. Second, the covered workshop and tandem parking area here, which is 37 feet long and 9 feet wide. And then the covered screened-in patio. In looking at precedents in the area and under similar zoning criteria, we're able to find precedents for this and this, but we weren't able to find the zero lot line configurations being requested by the applicant. In order to provide a structure on the property line, there are construction criteria that are called for that require you to have a fire-rated structure, and also some structural work done. As it is now, the carport, covered car parking in this area, essentially rests on the existing block wall here. So we do have some concern about the structural integrity of that roof connection and its support on the wall. Our recommendation is to allow a portion of the workshop area to remain with a 3-foot side yard setback right in here. This concludes staff's presentation. We'll answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available and would like to answer questions. The applicant did provide a number of letters in your packet in support of their request, and we haven't received any correspondence or walk-ins that have opposed this or provided any additional feedback in regards to this request.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? Ms. Morantz?
I had one, that element that you said may or may not be structurally sound. How long has that been there?
Since 1966 is my understanding.
It's still there.
It's still there. I'm not a structural engineer, but there are some concerns in terms of the fence.
If I could just add, what it is basically a shed roof structure that has a support all along the east side of the property that sets right on top of a garden wall. And the garden wall was not designed to be a exterior wall of a building. And, there's just no way that you could issue a permit with a garden wall as the support structure for, a structure that's like that. And there are some places where the garden wall has some cracks. I don't think there's any imminent danger, but it's the type of thing that, it'd be very difficult to bring that into compliance with the building code requirements without probably either rebuilding the wall or, building a complete support structure independent of the wall.
And Doug, even if that were structurally sound, the zero lot line issue is a violation of our code. Is that not correct?
Yeah, the zero lot line condition is a violation of the zoning ordinance and the way the structure is constructed today. It would be a violation of the building code because it's of the structure as well as the combustible material on the property line.
Okay. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter, please come forward at this time. Give us your name and please hide the clipboard before you leave.
Now yours is too low. You go lower.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Tom Flanagan. My wife, Gladys, and I live at 3863 Cayuse San Antonio in Palm Springs. We are here this afternoon to request that the Planning Commission approve our original application for a 2.5-foot variance to the rear yard setback and a 7.5-foot variance to the side yard setback. Gladys and I bought this home in February of 1966, and we have lived in it continuously for nearly 40 years, and God willing, we will be there for another 40. My mother, until her passing, resided for 20 years next door at 3883. Our son and his family now live in this home. When we bought our home, the garage had already been converted to a den and with a small bath, and the 2 patio covers that we're discussing today were in place. We assumed the patio cover on the east side of the house was placed to meet the covered parking requirement for the conversion of the garage. We never questioned this because there were several of these covers in the neighborhood. Most of them are still in place today. When we installed our pool in 1978, shown in the photographs, there were several inspections done by the city at that time. However, there was no mention of any setbacks violations at all. We have some really great neighbors. However, in recent years, there has been an influx of renters into the neighborhood. In some instances, this is okay. In some instances, this is not so good. When Gladys was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, she felt that our home should be made a little more secure. We commissioned a contractor to install drives, walks, and we fenced across the front of the property with electric gates and security lights. We had budgeted about $15,000 for this remodel, and when the dust settled, we had over 30 in it. I imagine any of you that has ever done any work around your property can relate to that. At any rate, we feel it turned out real nice, and we've heard nothing but compliments from our neighbors. This job was, of course, done fully permitted, 2 weeks and inspected by the city. 2 weeks after receiving our final inspection, we received a notice violation. That is the reason Gladys and I are here today. Until that time, we had no reason to believe that we were in violation of anything. Gladys and I want to thank the planning department for their assistance and patience through what has been an extremely stressful 6 months for us. Once they understood that this problem was not of our making, they really went the extra mile for us. There were several on-site meetings to try to find a solution. Alex Meyerhoff even brought Doug Evans out for a look. They have both been very understanding in their approach, and they have recommended approval of our request for the 2.5-foot variance on the rear yard, and we're extremely grateful for that.
I'm gonna go find out what that is.
However, they have proposed solving the problem on the east side of the house by rebuilding the workshop to a 3-foot setback. As you can see in picture number 3, a 3-foot setback would destroy the true utility of the workshop. It would turn a nearly 360 square foot storage and utility workshop area into virtually a 6 by 37 cupboard. That's just about as far as I can reach with both hands. In addition, the costs discussed by our contractor to rebuild this area are staggering. They would exceed $10,000 to rebuild the structure. Our contractor believes that bringing the existing substantial block wall on which the patio cover sits, as explained earlier, up to the code for a bearing wall would be a simple job and probably a quarter of the cost to tear it down and rebuild it. As you can see in picture 2, the east side of this wall, our son's side, is already stuccoed all the way up to the roof line. To tear all of this down after all of these years would be heartbreaking. What has been there for nearly 40 years has harmed no one. Not once in all this time has anyone complained. In fact, every single adjacent neighborhood has written a letter of support. There were 23 signatures on 15 letters of support that were submitted to Alex. We have read and understand the conditions of approval numbers 1 through 7. We agree with all the conditions except for number 6. Gladys and I are hopeful that the commission will find a way to grant us a variance to retain this patio cover in its present form. Doug has stated that the granting of this variance will not automatically set a precedence for this kind of construction. What's there now looks good and is well maintained. What's there now can be brought into code. No one in the neighborhood has complained about what's there now. And as the staff report states, there are other existing in the neighborhood. We just keep saying to ourselves that it has not been a problem for 37 years, and we therefore respectfully request approval of our variance application for a 7.5-foot variance to the side yard setback. Really appreciate your time today. It's been very worrisome for us, and we're hoping to get this done today one way or the other. If I could answer any questions, I'd be delighted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flanagan. There may be some questions after we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is anybody else who would like to address us on this matter? With that, we'll close the public hearing. Back to commission. Ms. Grants.
Doug, what is your feeling if that wall were to be reinforced? If he were to reinforce that wall as he has stated?
Well, on that property line, if you're just asking about the building code sides, they'd have to get a building permit, they'd have to do the structural engineering. And they'd have to make it a, 1-hour fire-rated wall and meet all the code requirements, so they'd have to fix the roof, which is combustible material. So that, I think your question was narrowly focused on just the building code side.
Is, if he were to just leave everything the way it is now, without any other improvements, he would still be in violation, is that correct?
It would be in violation of the building code as well as the zoning ordinance unless you grant the variance.
Mr. Matthews?
So item 1, the 7.5-foot setback's not a problem, and the elimination of the garage requirement's not really an issue, a variance you guys can all live with. We had another zero-line deal like this on a pool house off of Vistachino. I remember as the other guy ran for mayor and someone, you remember the place now?
We've had 2 that were pool houses. One was it was south of Vistachino and west of Sunrise on, I think, Buena Vista.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is that building also sat on the fence. It was part of the fence, not unlike what's going on here. What did we do?
Required a 3-foot setback.
Yeah, because he was
You had to reconstruct portions of it.
What if, and you've got some language in here that allows for some time. Walk me through the process of, this ordinance is approved and there's a 6-month or a 1-year time period and nothing happens. What does the city do next? I mean, clearly over time, there's a problem that's got to be resolved. The space has got to be put there. There's a structure problem. But is that something that's done? Are you going to bring a bulldozer in there, or are you going to wait a while, or really does it become a problem when he goes to sell his house?
If the planning commission requires that they move that structure back to 3 feet and reconstruct it, and they don't comply with the timeframes, at that point in time, we'd be obligated to send it to the city attorney, and they would start the legal process through the court system to compel the property owner to move it. And in all likelihood, if all of the administrative remedies are exhausted through the process, we would expect the courts to uphold what the city did. Obviously, to go through all the administrative remedies, if the applicant is dissatisfied with the commission action, they would have to appeal to the council. And then at that point, the council's decision would be final. And then we'd have to monitor what occurred. Now, the commission, could ask if there are alternatives and things of that nature, but they're real awkward. The other structure that was on the property, pool-related facility, that property owner who vowed never to take it down, demolished the whole structure just recently. And he did appeal it to council, and felt that he had compelling reasons, that it, been there since the 30s or 40s, and although he tore it down and rebuilt it completely, and staff stood there and said, please don't do this because we don't think you'll ever get a variance approved, and he did it anyway, so the circumstances were a little bit different, but it was a property line structure, and that gentleman, did take it down.
So administratively, you get the scary letter, and then you end up either in front of a judge or whatever, and eventually you got to deal with the issue.
In the court system,
Yeah.
if we go that route.
What is folks buy a house in 1966 and it's got this stuff here and really hasn't caused a problem. A couple of city inspectors have been there on other issues. We now got a problem. 6 months to me just seems like a short time frame. I mean, probably 6 years is probably too long. It really has to be dealt with either, now would be a great time. Change in ownership, probably before that happens, would be something you'd require would have to be done. I guess there'd be some kind of, do you have any sense on what might be a little more comfortable time frame than 6 months?
Well, I mean, certainly the commission can impose time, place, and manner restrictions on all the permits before you, and you could grant a reasonable period of time. One of the issues that, we have to be cognizant of is, we've officially put the property owner on notice that there's a structure there that's not built to code. So if you allow it to be there for a long period of time, in theory, if something does happen to the structure and something unfortunate occurs, it falls, somebody could argue that maybe we weren't as diligent as we should have been to make it a safe structure or have it, removed. And that, as you get into time frames, what's a reasonable time frame? If the commission wanted to, you could extend the time frames out. If you go much past what we've suggested, we would maybe suggest that you require some shoring up, fairly quickly, so that just in case we have a stronger earthquake than we've had in the last 20 or 30 years, that we don't end up with a structure coming down and somebody saying the city was too lenient.
My sense is the concern isn't it's about to fall down. The concern is it's a code violation. And we have, just from, as I looked at it and I drove by it, my concern would be if there were a fire in the backyard, how do you get there kind of thing? And more of an access issue. Even if there was the big earthquake and that wall fell down, could you execute, and again, this problem's been here for 30-plus years, and I'm not suggesting we leave it there for another 30, sooner or later we've got to deal with these. But if you executed the homeowner executed some kind of agreement that they're noticed, they know what's going on, they assume the liability, so that would remove that liability from the city where there's some untoward event that happened or whatever, or does that not really work? And by the way, I'm not looking for another 37 years. I just think 6 months after 30-some years is sort of brief.
Yeah, and if the commission wants to extend out the time frame, I've commented, and it's your decision as to what the reasonable time frame is, and that's why you have public hearings and why staff doesn't invite people into our office and say, here's what you've got to do, and that's the intent of the process. We could explore the issue of some type of agreement like that. I would suggest that you ask us to confer with the city attorney, because you've now gone into a legal matter, and there are certain things that agreements are good for, and sometimes they're worse. So, you could continue it. You could grant the variance for things you're comfortable with. You could continue this one item, and that way the applicant can, take a look at the other items, and if they want to move forward and get them permitted, they can right away. And then we could sit down with the city attorney, take a look at the options, and, make sure that, whatever we entered into is something that doesn't cause a different set of circumstances to come up in the future. But we've done different types of agreements on different types of structures. I don't recall ever doing something on a property line structure like this. We've been creative in a couple of other instances with some code violation issues, but they didn't have zoning issues along with them.
Could you do a 3-foot lot line adjustment and solve the problem?
Yeah, we looked at that. That was one of the first things the applicant talked about, since they have good relations with the adjoining property owner. The problem is I don't think you have 6 foot between the two structures. You got carport to carport, and I think that you probably have less than 6 between, and that gets you into the 3-foot provision on both of them.
Ms. Branch, you had further questions?
Yes, I drove through the neighborhood extensively over the weekend, and I really have to say that there's a lot of code violations in that area. I cannot, I have a hard time with just singling out one, although it's happened and we have to deal with it. It's, you know, the principle is there, but is the city going to do anything else in that area except on a item-by-item basis as far as all the code violations that are, because there's more add-ons and more whatever in that neighborhood than I've ever seen before. And of course, unless you're looking for something specific, you just drive by and you don't see it. But now I'm seeing it, and it is an older neighborhood, and there are a lot of structures that I would say are just as bad violation as
Well,
that is.
Without a doubt, we agree with you wholeheartedly that there's a number of unpermitted additions in this neighborhood, and it's been built, you know, over a number of years. We have one community preservation officer that's assigned this geographic area as part of a quarter of the city. We do primarily complaint-driven code enforcement in single-family neighborhoods. North of here in the multifamily neighborhood, we have had a proactive program working on trash enclosures, illegal structures, property maintenance, and things of that nature. We tend not to do a real aggressive, proactive program on code compliance unless it's something that's a city program, and we do some PR on it. We just don't, you know, staff just doesn't say, okay, let's go out and target a neighborhood. But we have done that in the, you know, some of our low-income neighborhoods where the neighborhood wanted code compliance and wanted things cleaned up. And the problem is when you do something like that, you hit everybody. And it becomes a pretty interesting neighborhood issue when you do a whole bunch of notices, you know, in the same time frame. I would like to just, if I could, comment on the issue that comes up on older structures on a regular basis. The building inspector goes out, they're called out for an addition on the right side of the house. They historically have inspected the right side of the house. They go in, they come out. We've been having challenges in the community of recent because of the number of properties that have exchanged hands. And in doing that, we have people, you know, questioning the permit activity on either their property or their neighbor's property. And we got a lot of people looking over fences going, what's that? And they call us and say, is it legal? You know, and we go out and something that's been there 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and one of the items Commissioner Matthews brought up was one of those, you know, that they looked behind the fence and said, oh my gosh, look what's here. So we're getting into more and more of this with the turnover of property. You know, a lot of people have had older properties for 20, 30, 40 years. They're back being recycled, and the building inspectors are always challenged by, do I go in and do the inspection I was called for, or do I investigate everything I see? And that's probably the most challenging dilemma a building inspector has day in, day out. You know, and it's a challenge. You know, and we get a lot of criticism when somebody comes in and says there's been 5 inspections on this property over the past 20 years. You even re-roofed it and inspected it. Building inspector, unless it's in the setbacks, it's something, it's hard to tell. You know, and they don't come back in and research every property. Their task would be truly thankless and never-ending if they did that.
But he's totally responsible, even though when he bought the home, there were a lot of violations when he bought the home, and none of those violations were brought into light at that time. Is that
Unless
correct?
there's a seller-buyer dispute and ability to deal with the seller and disclosure and, you know, all of those things that are much more keenly looked at today. Years ago, you pretty much buyer beware, and you inherit all the problems of your predecessor.
Okay.
Mr. Caffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug, these are the most agonizing decisions we have to make up here and we've seen several of them. And, you know, I find myself always going back to the previous decisions, and we need to have findings to change or to make a variance. And what you're telling us is that we don't have the findings for the garage or for the cart or storage area. Is that correct?
That's the result of staff's investigation.
Right. So, as far as the planning commission, we can't, without the findings, adopt a resolution. We're not allowed. The only one that can do that would be city council. Is that correct?
Well, you know, the commission can exercise its discretion and view the facts, and you don't always have to agree with staff. I mean, that we give you a report based upon our research and, you know, trying to maintain consistency from property to property.
But we still have to adopt a resolution and have the findings in place.
You would have to ask us and direct us to modify the findings, and if you would like to craft findings that are different, change the recommendation, as long as the commissioners that vote on it are comfortable that that represents the facts. You know, staff doesn't appeal your judgment. Your judgment is our direction.
And then we fall into a situation where we're gonna have our doors beaten down by previous applicants that will feel they got a raw deal. If we,
That's what we try to do, you know, from a consistency basis, as we indicated in the report. In the R1D zone, we didn't find any comparable situations. In the R1C zone, we did, and, you know, in most of the cases we investigated, it was a 3-foot setback, or if it was a property line structure, and there wasn't something really substandard about the property, you know, in at least one instance, you know, the commission and the council said just remove the structure. You know, you've got plenty of room to put a cabana somewhere outside of the setbacks, even though it might not be where you want it. And that's unfortunately or fortunately the way the, you know, variance issue works. It's really supposed to be a physical hardship of the property, not a result of all the construction that's occurred over the years and you've run out of room where you would like to do something. You know, it basically, the law says that, you know, structures are temporary, and you know, they shouldn't be truly the grounds for variances unless there's other hardships that would compound it.
now, just thinking on another track, would there be a possibility if we were to bring the building up to code as far as structure, safety, fire rating, and then also place a deed restriction of some sort where when they sell the property, they must bring it back to the setback requirement of 3 feet, something of that nature?
You could do that. In my memory, the commission has not done that for a zoning variance issue. We've, in just a few true hardship situations on building code issues, we've crafted covenant restrictions like that. It's a fairly complicated legal process to get all the documents in order, and we typically would go back to the owner to pay for those documents. But in theory, you know, you could do that. You could put a time restriction or an ownership restriction in, ask that they do a minimum shoring up and clean up, you know, of the thing. I don't think you'd want them to reconstruct the wall. They may put some support posts in behind the wall to make sure that there's structural support, and that's certainly an option you could consider. It would be a new option.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to invite the applicant back up. He has something he'd like to say.
The applicant, would you care to come forward? Members of the commission have further inquiry.
I really didn't want to put you guys through this. It's just gotten so complicated, and I realize you have to think globally here. But we're not, I would go away and tear it down if I thought I was gonna, we're gonna cause our neighbors, any problems. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to get any special privilege here. But what we'd really like to do, and we were just kind of talking about it, is for you guys to make a decision on it today. I don't see any sense in putting staff through some more and putting us through some more. If you can do the zero lot line, my contractor, who has had a lot of experience with these things, say it can be brought into code. If he can't, then I would be compelled for insurance reasons alone. Not to mention the fact that if I endangered any property, it'd be my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren. If you can do the zero, wonderful. If you can't, and the 3 feet is what you do, well, then the 3 feet is what I'll live by. I do appreciate the fact of having a little bit longer time to go. We've only got a couple of more years to retirement. And that what we put out in the front of the yard to make it more secure would give us a little breathing room. But if you can't do that without having to draft long legal documents, then please just give it your best shot today. Is there any
Thank you, sir. Did
questions
you
I
have
can
some
answer?
specific question, or?
No, I don't. I wanted to hear that, and I'm ready to move.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Flynn. Go ahead, Mr. Matthews.
Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is I think we, and I appreciate Mr. Flanagan understanding we're in a difficult spot, because all of us are sitting here going, I wonder what's wrong with my house, what's going to happen. And we have the same problem, but we do have a public responsibility to get this into compliance, and so I think you're stuck with the 3 feet. But what I would like to do is, because it's been 37 years, is extend the time frame. And so what I would like to do then is move case 6.465, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the resolution. However, I'd like to amend item condition 7. Instead of make that 6 months, I'd like to make that 2 years. And you got some time to figure out whether you want to move the lot line or what else might be able to be worked out. And you also have the ability, under a hardship, and I know there's some family issues, that you could get an extension there, but I think we got to probably get this dealt with, and so that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Ms. Morantz. And I have a question. Mr. Evans, you suggested that if time allowance was part of something that we're considering, that there be some requirement of shoring up or making some type of temporary fix on there until it's taken down. Did I understand that comment correctly, or?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did say that, but I think we could probably live with the time frame that the commission put together. I do have a question regarding the motion, just so I understand how we rewrite it. Is that 2-year period for getting permits for the patio, garage conversion, and workshop area? Or was it the intent that they have 2 years to deal with the workshop area?
The workshop area.
Okay. The rest of it, you would still keep, that they should get permits within 90 days and try to complete it in 6 months? We just, or complete it with give them more time to get the permits?
I suspect, like anyone else, he's got a budget to work in, and he's got to juggle it around.
Okay.
So let's err on the side of giving him the longest time.
Okay. How about the submit for the permits within?
And I think the key issue is the last 6 month period on the garage, and changing that to 2 years. So he's got a length of time to evaluate what he needs to do and where, and how to allocate his limited resources to do that. And then he'll either be completed in 2 years, or he'll come back for a hardship extension. But I suspect Mr. Flanagan will get it completed.
Okay.
Mr. Evans, I wonder if you could restate the time extensions as you understand them?
Well, the way we had crafted this and let's just talk about the enclosed patio and the garage conversion, that they'd have 90 days to get the permits. and 6 months to complete, the improvements to those two existing structures. And then, I think I clearly heard that he'd have 2 years to deal with the workshop area. Is that time frame okay, or would you like to give more time on the permit issuance and then give him 6 months from the time we issue the permit? That's
Yeah,
a little more.
I suspect the applicant, now knowing that he's got to remove 3 feet of his house, is going to evaluate the time frame here, and so I'd like to give him a little more than 90 days
Okay.
to get that submitted, because I suspect this changes the plan.
How about 6 months, Mark?
6 months, fine.
And then
About 6 months,
complete
1 year. And then
6
2
months,
years,
1 year?
And then 2
Yes.
years on the garage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye, motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstention. And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Flanagan.
Alex?
You know, we're progressing through this pretty well. Why don't we take a brief recess, and let's try to keep it to 10 minutes, please.
Two abstentions today? Beat my record, my God.
Come back to order. We're back in session. Next item on the agenda is public hearing item number 3, case 5.0926, application by Regal Homes for a planned development district and tentative parcel map to divide 30,055 square feet into 4 single-family residential lots, related architectural approvals, associated on- and off-site improvements for a property located at 3101 North Indian Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application by Regal Homes to divide 30,055 square feet of land into 4 lots, as you can see on the site plan here. The property is located at the northwest corner of San Carlos and Indian Canyon Drive. What's being proposed is lots ranging in size from 6,650 square feet to 7,350 square feet, with units at 2,168 square feet each. It's a tentative parcel map and a planned development district. The proposed units, as you can see in the elevations here, have a maximum height of 15 feet 6 inches. The applicant is proposing 8 parking spaces, including 2 parking spaces per unit. The 2 covered parking spaces is in the 2-car garage, and then basically 2 guest spaces outside in the driveway is where they would fit those. All units will include a pool. The total building area for the site encompasses about 29% of the lot area. The paving, including streets in the drive, is 18%, and landscaped open space is proposed at 50%. The perimeter wall is proposed at 7 feet per staff recommendation along Indian Canyon Drive for noise attenuation purposes, along 6 feet high along the north property line, the west property line, and then dropping down to 5 feet on the south property line due to the pool fencing requirements. Access to the development is off a gated entry on San Carlos Road into a common driveway court 24 feet wide. The existing parcel is substandard, so staff does support the planned development district modification for reduced lot area. The applicant is also proposing reduced setbacks, 18 feet on Indian Canyon Drive, 10 feet in the rear, 8 feet on the west, and I believe it's 20 feet on the south side of the property. In terms of off-site improvements, it's being recommended there are full street improvements along San Carlos and Indian Canyon Drive, including a combined 10-foot wide bicycle sidewalk path per the general plan. It should be noted, our general plan actually states it should be 12 feet wide, but according to our master plan of bikeways, we've been telling the applicant 10 feet wide, so we felt it was unfair to change that at the last moment. The project is compatible in terms of mass and scale with the surrounding neighborhood. There's a single-family residence to the north and to the south, and there's also some apartments to the east. Design review saw this on, it was October the 21st, and this project had actually been to design review about, I believe it was 3 times in the pre-application stage. So design review responded very well to the project, and they just had some minor comments regarding the solar screens above here. They commented those should maybe be elongated or extended to provide more solar protection, and some concerns regarding the scuppers here. However, we have a condition of approval where there should be a final detail, a final blown-up detail for approval in the final development plans. And they also did support the increased wall height along Indian Canyon Drive, agreeing that it was required for noise attenuation purposes. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant are available for your questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff before we open the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Caffrey?
could you point out the property lines, the new property lines?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Well, it's being divided into 4 lots.
Oh, okay. Let me get another exhibit for you, actually. It's So you can see in this exhibit, it would be lot number 1. It would be, yeah, the dark lines there. One. Right, that's the common driveway area, right. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is maintained by the homeowners association.
Can you, I don't have a microphone. Just point out again the parking and the car movements to get into the parking and out and so on?
The car movements, well, actually shows it better on this one. The parking is proposed in 4 two-car garages. These are intended to be basically almost like single-family homes. They're all 4 individual lots, so there's 1 two-car garage for each unit, and the maneuvering room is in this 24-foot driveway area, which is basically meets code.
So the guest parking would be, there's enough room there for a car to park in front of the garage, so to.
Correct. There's 19 feet 6 inches for a guest parking spot in front of the garage doors.
Jane, I have kind of a follow-up to Mr. Caffrey's questions. The application is for a division into 4 lots, but it's into 4 lots and a common lot as well?
That's correct.
And the exterior landscape portion facing Indian is part of a common lot, or is that part of one of the individually owned lots?
That's supposed to be commonly maintained as well.
I'm sorry?
The landscaped areas outside the walls are meant to be commonly maintained as well.
Any further questions? If not, then we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter may come forward at this time. Please give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave. It's not contiguous unless maybe it flows in. It's hard to tell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Juan Carlos Ochoa. I am the architect for this project. My office is located at 73626 Highway 111 in Palm Desert. And the only reason why I want to come up here is to trying to make a clarification regarding the perimeter wall that faces Indian Avenue. There was a noise study report prepared very recently in which the report recommends a 6-foot high wall. The reason why we would like to maintain that 6-foot high is because along that wall we have several indentations, and in those indentations we're going to have a little higher wall which will be accents. So we're breaking the wall so it's not a continuous wall. And we would like to request the staff report recommended 7 foot, but we feel that a 6 foot will be more appropriate aesthetically, and it's also the recommendation of the noise study. Another item that I just want to also clarify. The scuppers are just architectural elements. They're not, they're just decorative, so they won't have any water spilling out. And also, the sunscreens were elongated as per the recommendations of the DRC committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ochoa. Before you leave, you mentioned the perimeter wall height. Is that a particular condition that you were commenting on?
I believe so. I don't have conditions of approval with me, but I don't recall it. I don't know if anybody has that.
Okay, well, when we close the public hearing, we'll look into that in more detail.
Can I ask?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
I think we'll hold questions and we'll hold the follow-up on mine until after we close the public hearing. Is anybody else who wishes to address us? Please come forward at this time.
Hello, my name is Charlene Claybaugh, and I'm a neighbor of the project. I'm also a licensed real estate agent. And the concerns that I have about this project are the following. The density in the neighborhood directly across the street is a project that started to be built and did not even get off the ground, and it's multi-units. We also have a multi-unit zoned vacant lot on the corner of Santa Catalina and Indian Avenue right now, and it's zoned for 5 garden-style apartments. The other thing that concerns me is access to Indian, because I live very close to Indian, and because of the traffic flow and the emergency access to Desert Regional Hospital directly from I-10 is a concern of mine in the density, the parking, and the access to Indian, in and out of Indian. In addition, the Racket Club has decided to change part of the hotel into senior housing, so the density will also be increased on Racket Club and Indian. I believe, as a real estate agent, I believe in growth. Obviously, I make my living off of it, but I believe in responsible growth, and I believe that if we have other lots that are already zoned to have 4 to 5 units on them, why would we subdivide a lot that is currently zoned for a single-family residence, particularly in this neighborhood where it is the old Racket Club neighborhood. In addition to that, the neighborhood has had its series of ups and downs, and currently we have a number of care facility homes, group homes, and I feel that the density is very strong there too. You know, there may be as many as 6 adults in a group home with 3 bedrooms, so we have as many as 6 cars at a group home right there in the immediate neighborhood. So I'm concerned about emergency access Indian Avenue, and the density and the proposed density for even further development on Indian directly across the street. I'm aware of other lots that are available for sale right now because I'm working with a client looking for exactly the same thing. I know that they're available, and I would like to mention that there are other lots available that do not have to be subdivided for this kind of project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anybody else who would like to address the commission on this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearings. Back to the commission. I believe, Mr. Schoenberger, you had some questions you wanted to pursue with the applicant?
And I don't care who answers the question. My concern is the landscaping on the street side of the Indian Wall. I couldn't tell from the picture exactly what's planned there, and maybe staff can help me with that.
Are you talking about these trees here?
Just where is the wall, and then what is the landscaping that would be on the street side of the wall?
Okay, the wall here, as you can see on the landscape plan, is this sort of tan-colored line here, and it's got some little bit of play in it. You know, it's got a bit of depth, some room for that tree well. This tree here is looks like a Chilean mesquite, 24-inch box.
Just trees and shrubs. These are trees.
That's this round is a tree, right? And these are intended to be shrubs here.
And Jean, the trees are on the exterior portion of the wall?
That's correct.
And is that going to be part of the homeowners association's responsibility to maintain that?
That's right.
And what we're basically doing here is taking 2 lots and turning it into 4 lots.
That's correct.
Perhaps you could address the issue of the zoning, and one of the members of the public questioned the density and the appropriate use. Could you comment on what type of, what's the appropriate density allowed in this particular zone?
The subject property is zoned RGA 6, but if you can see in the staff report, it's designated L6 in the general plan, which is 4 to 6 units per acre. So it was through staff's analysis, so it was found that this density here of 4 units on approximately a little over half an acre is compatible with the general plan designation of L6.
All right, and the reason you've recommended and the applicant has used a planned development district is because of what would be substandard lot sizes if these were single-family homes, is that correct?
That's correct.
Any further questions? Mr. Schoenberger?
I think this is a nice project, and I can understand the comment by regarding the density. I guess that is a bit of a concern, although I think this project is within the zoning restrictions in that area. The other concern I have is, again, with the wall and the gate. I think the wall on Indian is appropriate because of the traffic and the noise, but I don't see the need, or I'm having trouble with the need for a gate. And rather than try and isolate these projects from their neighbors, I think we ought to try to integrate these projects with their neighbors, with the neighbors. And in this case, we've got 4 units that are basically facing inward in relation to their neighbors, and then we have walls around all sides and I suppose a gate that will be opened or closed with some kind of whatever devices, and that's my problem. I just don't like to see us approve projects that are isolated from their neighbors rather than integrated with their neighbors. And I don't know here, given the way these 4 units are situated in relation to each other, that we can avoid some of it, that it can be avoided entirely here without redoing the whole site plan. But I would not like to see this be a 4-unit gated community in the middle of an area that is that we're trying to, I hope, see developed and become more of an integrated community as opposed to a group of separate walled, gated type developments.
I sat through the design review process, and I think in general the project met very favorably with the group. A few details, the IRA detail and stuff, but they were minor points. I guess I would disagree. I think the theme and the thought was to have the gate for privacy and security, and so, you know, I felt it was appropriate, as did, you know, there was a discussion during design review about the gate, and I don't think there was a real issue there with them.
Ms. Morantz, you had a comment?
I agree with Jerry on that item, and I'm ready for a motion unless for discussion.
I had a follow-up question. Perhaps staff could comment on the gate issue, but also could you comment on the 7-foot wall that's recommended along Indian Canyon? I noticed in the report that it's recommended to be a foot higher for noise reduction purposes, but the applicant raised the issue, and perhaps you could comment.
If we could just maybe adjust the wording very briefly, instead of it reading as if it's a required 7-foot wall, if you could just say up to 7 foot. I have a feeling once they grade it, once they see the pad elevations, walls are measured from adjoining curb height, not from pad elevations. They're gonna probably find that it's a 6-foot high wall on a 1-foot high berm, and that's a 7-foot wall under our ordinance. You know, and we'll work with them in the field on making sure that we don't require them to build a garden wall to the structural standards of a 7-foot high wall, because I think that's their concern. When you go over 6 foot, you change footings, you change base blocks, it adds a lot of cost. But I think if we just set up to 7 feet, you know, we can work with them, and that gives us flexibility to not drop a tape measure on it and say it's a 5-foot high wall and a 1-foot berm, but that's the way the code reads, a 6-foot high wall. So I don't think that would hurt the applicant, gives them some flexibility when they actually get out and do the grading. With regards to the gate, you know, that's a, you know, kind of a policy call on the commission's part when staff looked at this one from the standpoint of it being right off of Indian Canyon, with the fact that you're going to get over time a fair amount of pedestrian and bicycle traffic going north and south. You know, we didn't see that the gating of it was inconsistent with the neighborhood. You know, it's a neighborhood that some of the estate properties that are tucked back in here, you know, have the appearance of you know, walled-in yards, and whether they have gates or not. I can tell you on a small little project like that, about the first homeowners association meeting that they have on their own, after the developers pass the project on, they'll talk about adding gates. And they'll be right back at staff asking to add gates. It would be my belief on how this would work.
Thank you. Further comments? I'm sorry, the public hearing has been closed.
Oh, I was coming up as the applicant to answer the question.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay. That was more eloquent than I
question.
could have put it anyway.
You're fortunate. There's no question being posed to you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Caffrey.
I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve subject to the conditions of the approval in the staff report.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Caffrey, second by Mr. Grinch. Any further comment?
That
Ms.
would
Morantz.
include that the wall facing Indian Avenue be up to 7 feet, if so desired? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the understanding. With you too, Mr. Grinch? Yes.
As Mr. Evans so eloquently stated.
He did. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Morantz?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
No.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye. Motion carries 5-1. And I should comment, I'm not unsympathetic to your comments of Mr. Schoenberger. On this particular one, though, I think it's warranted. Next item before us is number 4, case 6.466, application by Bruce McKenzie and Keith Markowitz for a variance and related architectural approval to construct single-family residence with a height of 33 feet for the property located at 2288 South Ridge Drive. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an item that Jing will also give you the staff report on, and I know the applicant is here in the audience.
All right, thank you. This is an application by Bruce McKenzie and Keith Markowski for essentially a 7,200 square foot addition to an existing residence. It's located at 2288 South Ridge Drive. What's being proposed here, just to give you a bit of a clear view of what's going on. What's the best way? If you look at this particular site section, which goes north to south, north that way, south that way, the existing residence is actually this particular parcel right here. And there's an existing tennis court, not with that gazebo structure up there. The addition that they're planning on adding on is approximately this area here, and it's shown in the site plan as this area here. The actual public hearing application before you is a variance for a building height of 33 feet. To kind of understand the topography of the property, I'm sort of passing around some photographs right now. The building pad, as it stands right now, is the property is actually on 3 different pads, which is this is an upper pad, the central pad, and a lower pad. And the pads range from about 24 to 33 feet above the top of curb, which is the standard for measuring building height. For buildings, for properties greater than 30,000 square feet, building height is measured from adjacent natural grade. So in this case, staff went with natural grade. And as you can see in the section, basically from natural grade to the top of the roof is about 32 foot 9 inches, so approximately 33 feet. The intent of that was to keep the addition on the same level as the existing residence instead of sloping it down. Staff asked the applicant to submit building height exhibits, which are shown in these 3 photos here, essentially photo simulations, what the residence would look like from the east, from the west, and then from the north, which is this one right here. When this went to design review, it went about 2 or 3 times. They did not agree with the building height of 33 feet. The recommendation was to maybe use ramps or to slope down the addition to about 30 feet. And therefore, staff is recommending denial of the variance application for the building height of 33 feet due to the fact that the addition would be out of scale with the rest of the neighborhood. Understanding that the Southridge area has extreme topography, however, other homes in the neighborhood have not been granted, any special privilege for additional building height, and they do blend in quite well. The existing residence itself is actually behind a ridgeline right now, so the addition is actually going to be sort of sticking out behind that ridgeline, so it makes it seem the more out of scale. I know the applicant is also available for your questions, and so is staff. That concludes our report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a time for public comment on this matter. Anybody wishing to address the commission, please come forward at this time. Give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave.
My name is Bruce McKenzie, and I'm one of the property owners. Basically, the whole purpose that we're here, and which has already been explained, is we're trying to keep the property all on one level. And by granting a 3.5-foot variance is really the only way to do it. We've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of different drawings to try to work out something that would give us what we're trying to do, which is stay on one level and not have to go through today's proceedings. But it's just not possible. May I walk up and just point the wall a little bit? Would that be okay?
Sure. When you go up there, we would ask that you do use the microphone, please.
As been pointing out, basically this is the structure that's new. This is the structure that presently exists. It doesn't exist in this form, this contemporary style. It's more of a kind of ugly 60s style that's going to be changed. The only alternative in doing this is to do away with this and basically move the tennis court down to this level. And then at that point, put up a 30-foot structure that would go all the way here. That really would not, that's not what we want. And I don't think anyone really wants a 30-foot structure up on top of the knoll anyway. So that's a worser of alternatives. So I don't think that would really serve anyone. But for reasons of my mother, which is advanced in age, I'm trying to keep it all on one level. And this is really the only way to do it. From the distance, being back on Highway 111, looking up at the property, 3 feet is just so minimal. I don't think anyone can really would notice it. Again, I just point out that I'm not trying to make the structure bigger or taller or anything than it should. The reason is to try to keep it all on one level without having to go back and build the structure back on this property.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Are there any other members of the audience who would like to address us on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to commission. Mr. Grinch?
Question for staff. If he did what he said the option would be, the alternative, to build the house where the tennis court is sitting, how tall a structure can he build on that site, on that lot where the tennis court is?
When this went to design review, the committee did recommend that a building height of 30 feet would probably be acceptable to them, so I'm going to probably say 30 feet.
Okay, well, taking that a step further, if we went 30 feet here off of the higher part of the ridge versus, how much higher is it off of, we're asking what, 3.5 feet, a variance of 3.5 feet right now? How high would that building be based, off the other grade?
I'm going to just jump in. If you were to go back on the tennis court side and deal with doing the addition in that direction, I'm not sure that a 30-foot high structure would make sense. And I think the applicant's concern is to take the existing floor elevation of the main level of the house and go, out either to the north or the south. So they would probably do some cutting to try and get that in. And then it's, as I recall, it's, a tall single-story elevation at that point. I don't think they'd come in and need that height. The reason they need the height on the north side is they're coming in on the lot that's lower, trying to do the garage, and amenities below, and then have that same exact floor elevation going back to the main house.
I guess my point being, aren't we breaking more of the ridge line, even with a lower building on the tennis court lot, rather than the bump up on the other lot? Even if you kept the tennis court building to a lot lower level, it just appears if you drew a line across, you'd be exposing more roof above the ridge than
As you
what he's
move back
proposing.
into that area, and Jing, I don't know if we have any photographs or exhibits that show it, but
Doug, can
they're-
I jump in here for a second?
Sure.
Any development on hillside is not right of zone to build 30 feet, especially on a ridge, okay? So that's not even a question. That
Right.
still has to be
Yeah,
approved
but
by
what is it
planning
if it's
commission.
20 feet, if it's 18 feet, is it higher?
It's what the planning commission determines.
Okay.
But as you take a look at that, in between the tennis court structure that you see on the right, on the very top blue document, and then the house on the left, there is an intervening part of slope back there on the backside of the tennis court. That tennis
okay.
court was cut. Would a structure equivalent in the height of that second floor break the ridge line? Yeah, but you'd have a fair amount of slope in front of it from looking from east to west. There's not much, actually from looking west to east, as you tuck back into that area, there's some existing topography that would probably obscure some of it. So it's hard to do it without actually having a perfect recollection of it, but I think it would probably be less obvious as far as the mass if you shifted it back to the south as opposed to pushing it out to the north. And anytime we look at a variance, we do try to take into consideration the applicant's concerns and desires. But again, one of the things that we do have to take into account, existing structures are man-made improvements. They're not physical hardships. That's something that was put there by choice. And again, the actual residence is substantially above the street. So as you go up the roadway, you're really looking at something that's fairly high above you, which the existing house is. And we certainly respect the concerns about same level and all that. We just, we had trouble finding that there was a physical hardship of the property. It was really a design constraint of the client. And that's not really a variance finding in staff's review.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yeah, if I can just sum that up, we do a lot of hillside development in areas that really don't even look like hillside, where those same people are held to the same standards as the people on top of the ridge line, where the number one thing is topography, and if the lot steps down, the house steps down. We've always adhered to that in every decision we've ever made. And with regard to the top of the mountain, I mean, we'd really be blowing it.
That's very well put, and I agree with it. Any other comments? I'd just like to add to the comment, this obviously is a well-thought-out application, and we'd like to see the addition, but I think that the concern as expressed here is overriding in this particular location, at least from my perspective. If there's no further comments, then is there a motion somebody would like to make? Ms. Morantz?
Make the motion to deny the variance request to construct a single-family residence 33 feet in height, measured from finished grade for the property located at 2288 South Ridge Drive.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Morantz, second by Mr. Grinch. Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you back with a modified application.
Will not.
Next item is number 5, case 5.0916, application by Matthew Jagrisevich Charitable Remainder Trust for a general plan amendment, change of zone to redesignate 5.11 acres of land located at 4155 Matthew Drive from M15 medium density residential to GC general commercial and C conservation, and to rezone the R2 multifamily residential and R1AH single-family residential to CM commercial manufacturing and O20 open land. This is in section 30, and this has been continued from the meeting of October 9th, 2002.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Evans.
much, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me for cutting you off. The applicant in this one has asked for another continuance. They've asked for that continuance to your first meeting in January, which is January 8th. I'll just give you a very brief report. We've had all of the city departments out there working with the applicant, looking at the building, looking at the grounds, looking at what's stored there. We've had environmental health come take a look at it. We've double-checked some permits for some of the things that they do on the property, and they're working very hard to resolve all of the issues, and I think we're making pretty substantial progress. What they would like to do is bring back plans to the Planning Commission so you can see what their intent is. So it's not just a narrative or a verbal report. They want you to be very comfortable with the effort they're going to make to try and upgrade the existing properties. So we recommend a continuance on this item to January 8th.
Would you suggest that we open the public hearing, or is it not necessary?
It's technically.
There's no public left.
It's technically a public hearing. I think you can open and close it rather quickly, sir.
All right, well then we'll open the public hearing. Seeing no members of the public present, we'll close the public hearing for the purpose of entertaining a motion to continue this matter.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Morantz, second by Mr. Matthews. Roll call vote, please.
Ms.
And this is to
Morantz?
continue to
Aye.
January 8th, 2003. I'm sorry.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we have no consent agenda. We've handled all the architectural and miscellaneous items. Next matter is number 12, Commission Work Program. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, very brief report from staff on this. With regards to a commission assignment for Commissioner Schoenberger, there's a development workshop on Monday to deal with permitting and planning, engineering, and tying in building, as well as community and economic development. So that's an ongoing action. With regards to Section 14, we will probably draw straws at your study session on December 4th. We're going to have to start talking about the Section 14 master plan. When we draw straws, I do need all the commissioners here. So if by chance you're not going to be here on December 4th, could you let me know? And we'll try to be creative in how we draw straws. We may draw straws at your next regular meeting, but we need to have all the commissioners here to draw the straws.
Doug, I'm trying to remember, I think our Christmas party's on December 4th. I can't recall. I'll have to get back to you on that, but I may not be here.
Okay.
I don't think we have any more meetings in November, do we?
I'm going to talk to you about that.
Okay. Now, what did we draw straws on before?
You
Think
drew
of that.
straws on the casino.
Just the casino, has nothing?
Casino.
Okay.
It's a different project, and I still have to confer with the city attorney. I think he's going to advise me that if you've got a different project, you need to draw lots.
Okay.
Each time you have a different project.
If we can do it in the beginning of the meeting, and I possibly could be here.
For the party.
Doug, I might have a conflict not being here. Navy is sending me somewhere, I think, on the 2nd. So I'll be gone for a while.
Well, they could just fly you back for a few minutes, right? That'd be part of the training exercise.
Flying.
How about video conferencing, drawing of straws?
Okay. Well, we'll do our best. We recognize it's a little bit awkward, and we're moving into a busy season.
If there's nothing further, then city council actions update.
Mr. Chairman, this evening you have a joint study session with the city council. There's 2 items on the council agenda that you may get asked to participate on. One is the Mesquite Avenue near Demuth Park roadway program. You'll get to see a traffic calming program from the city engineer that now reflects the desires of the council. We did notice the meeting tonight, so some of the residents that you've met with will be there to talk to the council, we're sure. Secondly, the Palm Hills general plan, and the idea there is there's a fair amount of policy amendments that are needed in order for that to be a project that would be consistent with the general plan. We're going to give you an update on the policy, the project, and see if there's some discussion amongst the commission and council, and the real issue is whether or not you're comfortable with the policy changes and moving into the public review process, and if you want to give us any direction and have a dialogue. And then also, we're going to try to see if we can get a commitment from both bodies to a field trip. We're not going to try to schedule dates, but at least find out if the council and the commission would like to go together as opposed to independently. Either way, it's logistically a challenge when you go into four-wheel drive country. There's just no easy way around this property. But we're looking at some options of having some very experienced drivers, so that when we get into the rougher areas, that we have pros behind the wheel and not people that are driving a car for the first time. Mr. Chairman, that completes our council updates at this time.
Very good. Does commission have any questions about our meeting tonight? This is our chance to ask the city council as to how they would like to see us approach. So if any of you have comments or thoughts on it, try to put them forth and get some read back from them. I think it'd be helpful for us as we approach it.
Yeah, just so you know, if you haven't seen the agenda, this is the third item on the actual agenda. We've got a convention center issue, the street calming issue, and then the Palm Hills issue. We've scheduled 30 minutes and an hour, and hopefully we won't take an hour on the Palm Hills issue unless the commission and council want to extend the dialogue to the full hour.
Okay. Next matter then, commission staff reports and requests. Ms. Morantz.
Doug, what is the status of the Estrella Inn, since we saw this quite some time ago, twice on the agenda, I believe, and then all of a sudden it's gone? And if, I could be mistaken, and certainly that wouldn't be the first time. However, I could have sworn today there was a cement truck pouring at that facility, and I just wondered what was being done that maybe was something different than what had come before us.
Well, I'll have to double check what they're pouring concrete for, so we'll have to double check. We first double check the permits before we send somebody to the site, and if they've got something that's got a permit, we won't bother them.
Okay.
What we've done is we've had a series of neighborhood meetings with people in that neighborhood, pretty much at the city manager level with the neighborhood organization. We're trying to schedule a meeting with the neighborhood group as well as the owners of the Estrella Inn so that they can talk through operational concerns. There's concerns about parking and noise and activities, and a wedding that occurred that got everybody's attention not too long ago. So we're trying to schedule those and then bring it back to the Planning Commission, but we'll double check and make sure that they're doing work with permits.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes, Doug, I might suggest a follow-up letter to our last applicant. I perceive that they think this is an issue of 2.9 feet, or 2 foot 9 inches, and that if they reduce the height to 30 feet, that it's a slam dunk. And I wouldn't want to see it come back again at 30 feet. In my mind, it's more like a 18-foot issue, single-story type thing. So I just want them to be clear on hillside development. Maybe you can send them a copy of the hillside development ordinance that they could review.
We'll convey that. I'm not sure they're going to do a remodel.
Never know.
Yeah.
But I'd hate to go
we'll
through it
convey
again
that.
with them complying to three, the small issue here, and then not see the larger picture.
implied.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right.
We'll certainly make sure they understand that there was some commission concern about the just overall mass of the structure and design. And the variance issue was the only thing that you ruled on. You did not rule upon giving them direction on the actual house.
Right.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Doug, I had a question on the Palm Springs Mall, the Jack-in-the-Box pad. Appears that two trees, mature trees, on the Sunrise side have been removed. And I don't know whether, when the first one came down, it was a couple weeks ago, and I thought perhaps it was just wind damage, but then I saw them taking down the second tree, and I think the extensive landscaping was one of the saving graces of that development on the corner, that major corner of Tockwitz and Sunrise, and, of Farrell, not Sunrise, I misspoke. Do you know anything about that, or is that something that can be looked into?
I've not heard of a staff approval of a tree removal program over there. In fact, we have talked to them about replacing a tree that died a while back. So we'll double check that, and we'll either have a revised landscape plan prepared and or have them put the trees back.
It may be something that's still in progress, and they just were replacing one of them and replaced them both with matching or something, but right now, they're both gone.
We'll double check, and you're right, the landscaping was critical on both sides of the building, and the tree that I'm aware of is on the west side of the building that was
This is on the
removed.
east. This
Yeah.
is right
We'll
on.
look at both sides.
Okay. Anything further? How about from staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, whenever we talk to you about possibly not having regularly scheduled meetings, we usually try to preface it that as long as we don't have pressing business. I've got one item that came up after your last meeting that we've been working on for a while. It's an application by the Agua Caliente Development Authority for a reconstruction and minor expansion of the Canyon South Golf Course. They're working as hard as they can to get the plans in order so that they can start construction if the project's approved and have the grow-in this summer for the turf, because if they don't have the grow-in this summer, they're going to have a turf management problem next year, which is very expensive, or you delay the opening of the golf course. And if you don't have that summer grow-in, where the Bermuda grows in, which is your base and your soil containment, you just have a challenge with a ryegrass golf course. To meet the most accelerated schedule we can I really need to ask the Planning Commission to have a 1 or 2 item agenda on November 27th. You know, right now I have 2 items, and, you know, with your concurrence, I'll just cap it off on 2 items. It's the 1 public hearing item for the golf course, and just so you know, to really meet their schedule, they needed to be underway in November, and we're really pushing the construction schedule by having them cut loose in late December. So we'd like to see if we could have a meeting on the 27th with a couple of items, and we'll do our best to try to manage the size of that agenda.
Are we going to have a quorum? Will we be present?
I believe I'll be.
Okay, well, we have 5 that will be here. Ms. Barantz can't. Okay.
Is that the day before Thanksgiving?
That's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Any abstentions that you're aware of from the 5? Okay. Okay. Yeah, that would, Agua Caliente Development Authority,
Well, I'm on leased land.
not an issue, unless you're doing business directly with the authority or live within 400 feet or 500 feet of the golf course. I'll talk to you about one.
Oh, yeah, I guess one of the holes I'm within 500 feet of.
So you'll probably have an abstention. Okay, you know, we apologize because we had talked to you about that, but we're looking at the schedule, and I'll tell you, the Development Authority and their consulting team is working just as hard as they can to try to get this thing rolling so that next year we have a new golf course out there, and there was just no way around November 27th. Keep it on track.
Very good.
All right.
Nothing further then, meeting adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you all at 7.